scientific studies have proven that the average response of humans towards a visual stimulus is 0.25 seconds and 0.17 seconds if it's an audio stimulus, and roughly 0.15 seconds if it's a tactile or touch stimulus. When I was 19, I was hit by a motorcycle while crossing the street. I was actually looking after a relative that time after she gave birth. And during lunchtime, I decided to dine at a cafeteria which was just across the hospital. So while I was crossing the highway, the jeepney from my left side had already halted to a full stop. And when all of a sudden, the motorcycle from behind did an overtake and hit me. And it was during a time when I was actually reminiscing my favorite Superman actor back then, Christopher Reeves. Those from my generation would be familiar with him. I guess you kids don't know him. So at that very moment, I immediately thought of saving my back from hitting the ground. So what happened was, I think I landed on my side, and in doing so, my right hand carried the weight of my body, and my palm felt the hot asphalted ground. Surprisingly, I was still able to stand up and get to the other side. I still stepped in to the restaurant, but by the way, the motorcycle just ran away. So again, I went into the restaurant, but because of embarrassment, I just decided for a takeout. And when I went back to the hospital room, I had already half expected that my right hand would feel different while holding it with a spoon. Later that day, this right hand had to be examined by an X-ray. And then by nighttime, it was already immobilized by a splint. It was a good thing that no fracture was incurred. The extreme pain was only because of the inflammation caused by the impact. Then, as I grew older, I realized that our reaction is actually an indication of how we can predict or even create our future. And in 2004, I attended this training by Stephen Covey called 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. And the first habit actually says, be proactive. Contrary to what we commonly know of the term, being proactive actually means more than taking the initiative, it is actually taking responsibility of our lives, our future, and that our behavior or response is a function of our conditions, rather, it is a function of our decisions and not our situation or condition. So, if you think about it, when we deal with stress, stress is something that has already become a metaphor of our lives. More often than not, we treat stress as an enemy simply because the nature of such a stimulus is not favorable to us. Exams, school projects, deadlines, teachers' comments on our work, even peer pressure, sibling rivalry, we feel that these are good enough reasons for us to react stressfully. And only because we have labeled them as such. Stress. I've also had my fair share of what I have labeled as stress. And eventually, I have learned to ask myself this question whenever I'm caught in that situation. Was there anything really that I completed successfully that did not involve stress? And whenever I get no for an answer, I would just keep moving. We are now closing on the digital age. And the internet will practically disrupt every industry imaginable. From healthcare to agriculture, what else? To transportation, tourism, energy, even security. To top it all, we are also closing in on a world where we have to deal with very minute response times. And we even have to deal with immediate reactions to changing situations. The key here is to not think small. The key here is to not merely react. The key here is to enlarge that infinitesimal space. I would imagine that in a few years, some of you would probably be scientists, environmentalists, executives, entrepreneurs, they now call it techpreneurs, startup founders. And wouldn't it be great if as we are in the process of pursuing our goals, we give our journey as much importance as our destination? Imagine how great our world could be if we take advantage of every infinitesimal space that we encounter. if we seize every opportunity to be the bigger person in the most challenging situations. Imagine as well the power that each of us could have in predicting, in creating our future by choosing our response and not merely reacting. Imagine as well what you can fill that infinitesimal space with. The perspective while you are in the process, while you are in the pursuit of whether it's business, whether you're taking up business or career, that you know that it's not just about power or profit, but it's actually an opportunity to create value, give value to people and causes you care about. Imagine if you can use that space to fulfill your purpose. Money, after all, can be limiting. But with creating value, you create endless opportunities. As for me, well, I'm standing here today. Thank God, I'm able to shake hands with my right hand. I'm able to sign papers with my right hand. I'm able to pat people at the back that feels natural to me. I guess that was how I used my 0.15 seconds back in the day. Thank you so much.